are, Stephen. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So the topic is the road to unicorn status, and congratulations on reaching that in March of this year. You raised a Series C at 100 million valuation, so congrats. But for, I think it's safe to say...
Not an evaluation.
I mean, sorry, 100 million, sorry. I think you can say that you're kind of, it's entrepreneurship is in your blood. Your grandfather started the oldest photography studio in Chicago. You started your first business in college. Can you kind of take us from the beginning into kind of your journey to starting Cameo and growing it from, I guess, your college days?
Sure. So I was a graduate at Duke University, and while at Duke, I started my first business, which was a event platform. So it was called Spartan Entertainment, and basically we got people to come and play beer pong at the most popular bar on campus. This was the early days of Facebook, when you had to have a .edu address to be part of the network, and I was able to aggregate 17,000 kids all throughout the different schools in North Carolina, and they would come to whatever events we said to have them come to. So it started with that. I always was going to be an entrepreneur, but frankly, after college, it took me about 8-9 years to come up with the right idea that I wanted to pursue. And like many of you guys that are thinking about starting a company or working on somebody else's things, I don't really believe you can be the best in the world at something unless it's what you love to do, what you're great at, what the world needs, and what you can ultimately make money doing. And it took me a really long time to find that. I had the idea for a Cameo at the craziest place, at my grandmother's funeral. You don't really think that that's where you're gonna have your $1 billion idea, but that's where I had mine. And it's just been a pretty wild ride ever since.
So you kind of started that business in college, ended up going to work on the Chicago Board of Trade as an options trader, which is kind of unconventional, then was part of this team at LinkedIn. And I remember you telling me this story about how the global head of sales, like the first day on the job, said something to you that really stuck. And I would love for you to kind of share that story.
Yeah, it was pretty epic. Mike Gampson, who is number 2 at LinkedIn, global head of sales, everyone not an engineer, reported into him at the company. The very first day I was working there, I'm sitting in a room similar to this, and he's got 36 offices around the world on Blue Jeans at the time. Zoom wasn't around yet, or wasn't a thing. And the first thing he says is, "Welcome to LinkedIn. 2 years from today, none of you will be doing the job that we hired you for. We know that, we support that, and at LinkedIn, we literally have the profile data to prove it. So your job in the next 2 years is to figure out what your dream job is, to figure out what skills you need to get that job. Our job as a company is to make sure that we provide you the opportunity to learn those skills to take that next job, whether it's internal or external. And all we ask is 2 years from now, when you're ready to take your next job, internal or external, you recruit someone better than yourself to do the job that you were doing 2 years ago." And that to me was like just such a mind-blowing, change of thought. And it's something that I'm trying to bring to Cameo as we're building our culture. Things are going so fast. There's whole departments today that didn't exist a year ago. And I really believe that just being voracious in your knowledge and curiosity, you just have to keep learning. And that, that mindset, that open mindset, really, that growth mindset, that really was something that came to me at Cameo. And I think back to when I was in finance, and I got to the Chicago Board of Trade for the first time as a 19-year-old, the first time I saw it, and I'm looking around and everyone's talking about how awesome things used to be. You should have been here in the 80s, you should have seen the 90s. The dot-com bubble was great, '08 was amazing. It was always about what had happened, it wasn't about what was coming. And in tech, the thing that I think is so great, and the reason you guys are all here, it's all about this future we could build that's gonna be better and in so many ways than the reality is right now, and that's what's motivating. I didn't think I'm gonna be the last unicorn in Miami. Like, I'm hoping that in this room, there's so many that will, do way better than I did. And that's what it's all about. It's just a different mindset.
And Mike was spot on, right? You left, 2 years to the day?
It's 2 years from the day. So in that case, funny enough, and if you guys go to my LinkedIn, no shit, if you guys go to my LinkedIn, you can read the letter of resignation. My next play letter is what they call it at LinkedIn, where I told people what I was gonna do. It was on the exact 2-year anniversary of joining. I told that story, and then Mike Gampson ended up reading that and said, hey, if I could ever be helpful, let me know. 3 months after that, he cold called me and led a $500,000 seed investment into the company, and that was really the first real money we had. So, just a crazy full circle story.
And so you had, before you kind of went all in, you were working on it kind of on the side, and then somebody else said something to you, the late Will Helm, was it? I think what he said to you was like so incredible, and I think you said what kind of led you to go all in, so.
Yeah, so, so many of you guys, you have idea, you're thinking about it, you're working on it at nights and weekends, you just can't stop thinking about it. You can't even be great at your current job. And I joke that my last quarter at LinkedIn, I was probably the worst person at the whole company, because my co-founders would call me up and they'd have an idea and I'd miss a customer call. I was just like, my mind was there. And everyone I talked to that sat around me at my desk at LinkedIn, they just all saw it. And half of those people that were sitting in the immediate 6, 7 people, they all work for me now, right? They've all left and they've come over there. But I'll never forget, I was in Nicaragua on New Year's Day, 2017. And Will Hearn, this guy that I'd worked with, was sitting in a hot tub with me, and we're talking about this business, and the whole time he'd been talking, oh, maybe I'll come over and lead. And one guy's like, I want to lead product, I'll lead marketing. So everybody was talking about what their jobs were going to be at the company. But Will asked me the question that I needed to hear, and he goes, Steven, this idea is too big. If you never pursue this, and somebody else builds this company and builds $1 billion company, and you stay working at LinkedIn, could you live with yourself? I hadn't thought about it, but the answer was so clearly no. I resigned that day from Nicaragua. I wrote the letter. I sent it in. 2 days later, I came to see my parents in Cabo, and I said, hey, Mom and Dad, by the way, this is what I just did, and I had them read the letter, and I think they had a heart attack because I had a great job there. And for parents in the audience, you can imagine, you hear your sons leaving to go do something crazy. But, they believed in me. My mom and my little brother were the first 2 investors in Cameo. My dad passed because he said, the family's got too much exposure already. Mom and Jonathan are investing, you're doing it. So I think we'll be fine if I don't put in. So my dad passed, but my mom and brother, were lucky enough to be in the $3 million valuation friends and family round.
Did they give your dad shit? Like they separate?
All the time. All the time.
So for anyone building marketplace businesses, they're inherently complex. You have to kind of build one side and then decide kind of which side you build first. How did you at Cameo kind of look at it, and how did you kind of create the flywheels that would help it scale?
Yeah, obviously every single marketplace at the very beginning, they're the hardest built businesses in the world to build, but have the best moats when you get them going, because you have to figure out both the supply and demand side. In our case, we had pretty deep conviction. The second I saw a Cameo, just so you guys know, the way that I got the idea, my co-founder Martin was an NFL agent, and he showed me, as I was driving him home from my grandmother's funeral, a video that he'd made for his buddy, who was a huge Seattle Seahawks fan. One of Martin's players was on the Seahawks, and Martin's buddy had just become a father. So Martin got this player, Cassius Marsh, to congratulate him on becoming a dad. And in the video, the guy's driving, he's got no shirt on, he's all tatted up. So imagine this guy driving Southern California while recording a video. And he goes, hey Brandon, it's Cassius Marsh from the Seahawks. Heard about your son Maverick, congratulations. If he gets your athletic ability, he'll be playing for the Seahawks one day, go Hawks. And I saw this video and I was like, that's so cool. That to me immediately, I'm like, that's the new autograph. You can go buy an autograph at an auction, but if the selfie's the new autograph, you can only have that moment if you see someone in real life. But if you see them in real life, if you run into Kim Kardashian at some Art Basel event, most people here, when they look at her, they might take a picture from away, but very few people are gonna tap her on the shoulder, and even fewer are gonna get that type of video. So we were thinking about how powerful that could be. And that to me was, so I had, because of that insight, we could all think of that person that you admire, that you would love to hear from, that it would surprise the hell out of you. It's not athletes for everybody. For some it might be reality TV stars or musicians or podcast hosts or authors, but we all have people that influence us. So just using that consumer insight, I deeply felt that there would be insatiable customer demand for something like this if we could get the supply side of the marketplace, the talent to do this at scale. So we focused immediately on the supply side. And the benefit in our marketplace is all of our supply, the talent are famous. They have hundreds of thousands or millions of followers on Twitter, on Instagram. So they can turn their followers into our customers for free by putting a link in their bio or posting on their Twitter or posting on their Instagram. And that started the flywheel. What we didn't know was that almost all of these would be gifts. So now it's me buying for you, you sharing it on your Twitter, everybody here following you, learning about it, seeing the Cameo watermark. And that's the flywheel part that we didn't really design automatically, but it worked out better than we could have imagined.
And so people give them as gifts, but it's so much more like rewarding for the gifter than the giftee. To just see the reaction. I remember I bought one for my niece with one of the stars from Hamilton, and I'm like, I wasn't with her that day, and I was like, I made my sister record her reaction because I'm like, I cannot miss seeing the reaction. And so, do you guys do anything to kind of leverage that?
I mean, those reaction videos are everything. We always say that every Cameo is a commercial for the next one. And the best possible commercial is the reaction of, like last week I saw we just launched Thomas the Tank Engine on Cameo. So now for $20 you can get an AI generated Thomas the Tank Engine to wish your kid Merry Christmas or Happy Birthday. And a friend that I know that was really early employee at Twitter, filmed his 7-year-old or I think 6-year-old son just freaking out to Thomas the Tank Engine. And then he's got a huge following on Twitter. That went viral, so all these people learned about it, and that's how this business has really caught fire.
So, go back to March of 2020. You're about to sign a huge lease for a headquarters in Chicago. Then what? You back out. You move to Miami.
I mean, it's so funny. 2020, I don't know about you guys, that year felt like a decade for me, and I can't believe it's December 1st today, 2021. This year has just flown by. But, take you back to actually December 2019. It's our Christmas party, and I have an insider Chicago deal. I'm Greek in Chicago, which is kind of like being Cuban in Miami. Everybody knows each other. It's all insider deals. So I had this awesome warehouse that I'd rented out, but we had no lease. It was a month-to-month